Salve, I'm John O'Freeman. Traditionally, one measure of an author's greatness may be gauged by other members of the literary community, even if their work is clothed in a pseudonym. Francis Bacon is recorded as having died on Easter Day, the 9th of April, 1626, aged 65. Within a few weeks of his supposed death, a remarkable set of Latin elegies described as tokens of love and memorials of sorrow was published in commemoration of him, the Manes Verulamiani. These elegies were largely written by scholars and fellows of the universities, together with members of the Inns of Court, all well aware of who the true genius behind the English Renaissance was. The outpouring of tribute to Bacon was massive, and concurrently there was a veiled recognition of his identity as Shakespeare. The writers were careful to cloak their tributes in a coded language, replete with historic, classic and mythological allusions best discerned by the initiated members of their fraternity. The tributes were selected by Bacon's private chaplain, Dr. Rawley, and published by John Haviland. Rawley leaves us an interesting clue, stating that as editor, he felt it necessary to withhold the best poems from publication, also deliberately minimising the number of elegies, including his own, to 33, Bacon's count in simple cipher. Regarding Sir Francis Bacon's title, Verulam has an analogous meaning with spear shaker or Shakespeare. Bacon's title, Baron Verulam of Verulam, neatly then conveys the meaning Shakespeare of Verulamium. The Manes Verulamiani demonstrates an almost godlike veneration for Bacon, and this is precisely the sort of commemoration we would expect in response to Shakespeare's passing. The collusive praise goes far beyond conventional requirements. The writers of these elegies appear to have collaborated in exalting Bacon's literary reputation to the zenith. The most stunning element of the praises in the Manes is the emphasis on Bacon's poetry rather than his philosophical or prose works, with numerous references to Pallas Athena, Minerva, Apollo, and the Muses. The verses provide evidence that a number of contemporaneous scholars, lawyers, writers, poets, and at least one printer knew him as 1. A supreme poet, second to none, and an extraordinary philosopher. 2. The writer of unacknowledged literary work. 3. Associated with the theatre. And 4. The centre of a mystery reserved for posterity to unravel. These tributes have not received the attention from scholars which they merit. Baconians have for many years desired to draw renewed attention to the Manes, so that they may not pass into oblivion, but rather help spread knowledge and appreciation of the great Francis among the rank and file of the people in whose service he laboured, and to whom he bequeathed the results of his toil. We're also compelled to ask that if Shakespeare or De Vere were such great literary genii, why then was there no acknowledgement of their accomplishments from their peers? Why were their deaths such non-events, accompanied by deafening silence? Finally, before sharing some of these verses with you, we'd like to draw attention to the powerful case made by A. Phoenix for Bacon feigning his death that Easter Sunday. Significantly, on the festival of Christ's resurrection in the Christian calendar, Bacon staged a final mask in navigating what was a very dangerous and threatening personal and political landscape. There are traces in the Manes that some of the authors may have been privy to this information, that Bacon had only died to the profane world, metaphorically rising again. So we present a short selection of the Manes Verulamiani, transcribed into English verse in 1927 by Willard Parker. To the reader, greeting. What my most honoured master Viscounts and Alban most highly valued, the favour of academies and men of letters, that, I believe, he has obtained. For these insignia of love and grief indicate their great sorrow at his loss. Nay, verily, with no stinted hand have the Muses bestowed on him this token. Many of the best verses remain with me, but as he himself delighted not in quantity, no great mass have I raised. Moreover, let it suffice to lay these foundations in the name of the present age. Every age will enlarge and adorn this edifice, but to what age is given to set the finishing hand is manifest only to God and the fates.
The literary works of Bacon are called to the pyre. Instauratio magna, saying of marvellous subtlety, twofold increase of all science, writ in the tongue of thy homeland, greatly enlarged in the Latin, life and death history profoundest, bathed in the sweet Attic honey. Tale of the great 7th Henry pass I not silently over. Stories of love more refined, which still do interpret in spirit great Bacon's muse with a vigour. Choicer by far than the Muses, the 9 that are fabled in story, rise in the flames of his funeral, Muses, your sire's pathway lighting. Ages of you are unworthy, your master, O shame, is departed.
On the death of the most honoured man and lord, Sir Francis of Verulam, Viscount St. Alban, late Chancellor of England. Art thou, O barren tribunal, still proud of thine insolent purple, when thou beholdest the bier that is robbing the famed of their greatness? Nay, be this day to the deepest humility now given over, turning to sackcloth the pomp which thou at thy bar ever wearest. Themis shall carry not scales, but the urn bearing Verulam's ashes. Then let her weigh, but not Ephorus tipping the beam of her steelyard, but Areopagus adding its ponderous weight to the balance. Greater the sage that we mourn than philosophy, old and scholastic in its barbarian porch. Loud groaned the axis revolving when this pile fell, this structure of wonderful greatness. Dissolved was the vault of the whole world of letters, wherein, with a brilliancy equal, graced he the citizen's garb, as likewise the toga of statecraft. As, in the shades of Dis wandering, still longed Eurydice sadly, kisses on Orpheus to lavish. Styx waves, first calm and then bounding, as to his magical fingers rang out the lyre strings, so learning thrilled to his touch, when entangled deep in the webs of the schoolman, raised high her crest neath his fingers, newly enlivened her sock thread. Oh, when his stage-shaking buskin rose up so tragic, like Verbius, sprang into being the Stagirite, new-lived in Novum Organum. Proud leaves Columbus the pillars, Calp and Abila behind him, destined to give his fellows new worlds and arts as a heritage. Ardour of youth pushes forward in spite of fate's threatening and menace. Who is the ancient or Hannibal, fearing his soul eyes eclipsing, winnowing the street of Suburra with his victorious standards? Who is the Milo so powerful, courting the rage of the oak tree, when his old shoulders are borne down heavier with age than the ox weight? Vainly our hero bestowed upon science eternal duration, yet, alas, found he in truth 'twas his sepulchre he had constructed. Ecstasy tranquil, the thinking whereby his great mind philosophic, soaring past stars to Olympus, seeks of all good contemplation. There it abideth at rest, is now to its earth home a stranger. Now it comes back, then again it is coyly and playfully roaming, once more returns, till at last, in earnest, in secret withdrawing, parteth the soul from the ailing body, and thus to death leaves it. Come then, ye muses of morning, gather incense from Libanus, Be it a crime that the royal pyre with the flames of Prometheus, filch from the hearth of the kitchen, should for his funeral be kindled? And if by breezes more wanton his sacred ashes be scattered, weep till each following teardrop joins in embrace with its fellows. Burst be thy prison foundations, seek thou the royal Jacobus, showing that loyalty follows even the true soul's hereafter. Then, from law's tripod announcing, shalt thou thine oracles utter to the disciples of Themis. Thus, ye blessed dwellers in heaven, be unto Australia renewed now the joy of her champion ancient. Or else with Bacon return ye Australia, even as aforetime.
To the memory and merits of the most honoured Francis, Lord Verulam, Viscount St. Alban. Mourn, O ye turbulent streams, which were born neath the hoofbeats of Pegasus. Turbid with weeping and mud-stained, hardly your dark load you're bearing. Wither, green foliage of Daphne, fall till the dead boughs are leafless. Wherefore, ye muses, should longer your sad gardens bring forth the laurel? Nay, let the axe blade all ruthless hew down the trunk that's now barren. He who alone was deserving of laurel crown no longer liveth. Verulam, now in God's citadel reigns, shines, the golden crown wearing, and from beyond heaven's firmament seeth the stars' adoration. Grudging that wisdom of heaven should solely belong to immortals, he would return it to earth and restore it for man's elevation. Of all earth's sons was none greater master of gifts intellectual. None who survive him can marry so sweetly dear Themis to Pallas. While he was flourishing, poured forth the choir of the Aeonids sacred eloquence all in his praise, leaving none for lamenting or wailing.
On the death of the most honourable Lord Francis Bacon, late Lord High Chancellor of England, some there be who, when departed, still would live on in the marble, trusting to long-lasting columns, memory, fame, immortality. Some in bronze, some in gold shining, self-deceived, think the fates cheated. Others leave numerous offspring, scorning the great gods like Niobe. Thy renown doth not depend upon columns engraven, nor epitaphs, halting the steps of the traveller. And who would claim thee as parent be not the fruit of thy body, but of Jove's brain, like Minerva. Virtue be now thy first monument, second thy books, long enduring, third thy nobility, fate holding naught but thy body in triumph, thy mind and fame still surviving, ne'er shall thy poor clay be ransomed.
Muses, now pour forth your waters in loud lamentations perennial. Yea, let Apollo shed tears now, as plentiful too as the water Castaly's stream overflowing. Neither were our dirges meagre, to such a great loss befitting, nor our poor tears to such sepulchre. Thou, the nerve centre of genius, yea, of persuasion the marrow, eloquence's stream, and the jewel most precious of letters concealed. Bacon the noble art fallen by the three sisters, relentless. Oh, how shall my verse, great Bacon, eulogize thee and thy labours, built for all ages and born of Minerva and thy matchless genius. Filled with what beauty and learning profound is the great Instauration. Yea, with what light does it scatter the moth-darkened sages of old time, bringing now wisdom from chaos. Thus will the hand of Almighty bring to thy tomb resurrection. Therefore thou diest not, Bacon. Ever from death, grief, and darkness, the great Instauration will free thee. If but the worthy lament thee, then believe me, O Bacon, there will be none who are mourners. Clio and sisters of Clio, weep ye now truly, ye muses. Fallen is the 10th, your choir's glory. Never before has Apollo bowed his head truly in sorrow. when shall there e'er be another who with such full heart shall love him? Never again be your number full and complete as aforetime. Now must Apollo content him with the 9 muses, 9 only. Even while Verulam's sage filled the ages with copious volumes, Death gazed detesting upon them, hating such marvellous labours. Hated he all genius's monuments, writing the funeral pyre scorning. Therefore, while still the pen wielding, even with frail hands full weary, while the scroll yet was unfinished, came the black theta to end it. Yet shall thy writing, O Bacon, live on, enduring through ages, reaching thy latest descendants, all despite death's intervention.
On the death of the most noble man, Francis Bacon, sometime keeper of the Great Seal of England. What? Has war arisen mongst the gods then? Pray, is Saturn in his court now suing Jove, his son, his kingdom to recover? Leaves the stars, having there no attorney, wings his way to earth, where soon he finds one fitting to his purpose. Bacon, whom he with scythe mows down, and forthwith forces justice to administer, and champion his cause 'gainst his son before the angels. What? Thus do the gods need Bacon's wisdom? Or has Australia the gods forsaken? Even so it is, for she abandoned all the stars, and long has sedulously unto Bacon ministered on earth here. Saturn never passed more prosperous ages in the days named gold in poet's story than did we when Bacon's wisdom judged us. Therefore did the gods us mortals envy, and deprived us of this greatest treasure. He is gone, he's gone. The word suffices for our grief. That he is dead, we say not. What more need of raiment sombre? See, see, where our pen itself flows with black tincture. Dry will run the muse's fount, resolving into tiny tears. April drips sorrow. Rage the spring winds in fraternal discord. Verily each moan from deep heart drawing. Universal benefactor, all things loved thee living, and thy death are mourning. On the death of Lord Francis Bacon, Baron Verulam and late Chancellor of all England. Verulam's hero, in dying, brings to the eyes of the muses sadness and tears. Therefore, think we, none after death can be happy. Even the old sage of Samos, think we, is filled with unwisdom. Surely he cannot be happy when his own muses are mourning. For that his love for himself is not greater than that for the muses, Clotho, imperious, dragged him, spirit unwilling, feet struggling, up to the stars. Shall we think then Phoebus' powers dormant, or useless herbs of the clarion Apollo? Nay, unchecked was power of Phoebus, neither lacked those herbs their virtue, both were still potent in fullness. But know that Phoebus, then fearing Bacon as king of the muses, healing withheld from his rival, hence are our tears and our sorrow. For although Verulam's hero Phoebus in all else exceeded, in one sole art was inferior, in the art only of healing. Shadows and ghosts are ye muses, well nigh Jove's pale troop infernal. If indeed ye are yet breathing, and my poor eyes not deceived, though I can scarce think that after he is gone you could survive him. If then some Orpheus hath brought you back from the dead, and you are not visions my sight now deceiving, learn ye now deep lamentations, sad songs, shed tears in abundance. Look ye how copious the tear flood. Muses, I recognize truly I and their tears, for a single helicon barely suffices. Even Parnassus, submerged not under the waves of Deucalion, marvel will hide neath these waters.
he through whom ye have your being perished in truth, he who nourished still the Pierian goddesses, fed them with all of his rich art. When he perceived that the arts here, held by no root like seed scattered over the soil, languished, withered, taught he to grow arts of Pegasus. Even as spear of Quirinus swiftly grew into a laurel, since 'tis through him that the Helicon goddesses learn then to flourish. Ne'er shall the lapse of the ages dim his renown or his glory, nor could his great spirit's ardour longer endure that, neglectful of thee, Minerva, divine one, men should remain. His pen, godlike honour restores, and Apollo dissipates the cloud that had hid thee. Also, he routed the darkness bred of blear age and senility. New and wise methods restoring, tearing the thread labyrinthine, but a new wisdom supplying. Truly, the wisest of ancients never had eyes so discerning. They were like Phoebus, arising over the shore to the eastward. He, like Apollo, at midday, even like Typhus, essayed they over the ocean to voyage. Yet did their frail vessel hardly launch from the coast of their starting. He, on the other hand, knowing Pleiades, Hyades' sisters, Siotes and Scylla's fierce watchdogs, well knows the dangers to shun them, well knows his vessel to pilot guided by mariner's needle. They begat muses but infants, his were full grown from the birth hour, theirs were but mortal, divine his Instauratio magna, from other writings the palm snatched, while slunk the sophists in squalor. Aye, even now Pallas steps forth shining as serpent with new skin. Thus doth the phoenix arising gaze on his ashes paternal. Aeson renews now his youth bloom, while Verulam, now restored, boasts of its new walls, is hoping glory of old to recover. But see how brightly his eyes gleam, brighter than all mortal vision. As of state mysteries he chanteth, singing the great laws of nature, singing the secrets of princes, as though to both he were minister. Celebrates Henry, who, priest-king, firmly united both roses, but far too lofty for one muse these sad strains. Let not granter, unhappy, hear them, but court ears, since to such lips has our granter offered her breasts. She has full right, greatest of offspring, to praise thee. She has the right to extinguish thy funeral fires with her weeping. Yea, a right she has to pluck thee out from the midst of the burning. Yet our poor muse cannot bring thee praises, for thou art the singer, and thine own notes can best laud thee. Yet I will sing of thy praises, e'en as I may, and if art fail, still will my grief be thy eulogy.
Theatre!